Hello, everybody. Welcome to the once still again unentitled podcast featured show starring moi, John Maffio, suffering from allergies because in New York, one doesn't know what it wants to be. It's really cold and rainy one day, and then it's just awesomely hot the next. And I love hot summer weather, but not when it's tumultuous like this and it makes my body react terribly. Throbbing sore throat, which I just got over, runny nose, the whole 9 yards. But I still want to talk about things because I love movies and I love making content, and I'm back making content. So let's talk about things, baby. First and foremost, the biggest news story on that's been making waves right now that apparently isn't official yet, but it's being talked like it's official. That Robert Pattinson, otherwise known as Edward Cullen from the Elder series franchise known as Twilight, will be playing Bruce Wayne Batman in the unentitled Matt Reeves franchise, or I guess the first movie. It might be a trilogy, but for right now it's one movie called The Batman. And also, apparently, Penguin and Catwoman are being thrown into the mix. This is going to be another Batman Returns, but with a new story. It's just the same characters. That's why I mentioned Batman Returns, the Tim Burton movie, that has some strange controversies, but I always liked it. You asked me this 10 years ago if I time traveled to the past and told my past self that I would be enjoying the idea of Robert Pattinson as Batman 10 years later, I'd call that person an idiot. I'd call myself an idiot. But I think he has proven himself more than most that he's worthy of a franchise role like this. And he's, first of all, he's experienced in franchise galore. So sorry, my phone just went off. So he is experienced with franchises, so it could be something else depending on how the movie goes, but seeing as he's been dealing with franchise culture before with Harry Potter and Twilight, this isn't a new thing for him, and it's not going to be an overwhelming experience as much as it might be for other actors like a Ben Affleck, who, on top of other things that happened with him, I'm glad he's doing okay, but it seemed like there was a lot of pressure on him being that character. Two, he's had a lot of great experiences in film in general. He's made a few really stellar films, or he's been a part of a very few stellar films. He's also going to be starring alongside John David Washington in the new Christopher Nolan movie that comes out next year. We don't know what it's about yet, but the fact that he's doing a Christopher Nolan movie next year and then he goes right into Batman the year after that, it's pretty crazy. And he's also got a bunch of indie movies that are coming out that are also getting raves. This movie called The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe. Green Goblin. Godspeed, Spider-Man. That comes out sometime this year later, but it premiered at Cannes to great reviews. Robert Pattinson's doing great things, so I have no problem with this news. I have no quarrels with it. First of all, I'm not as angry either because I think I've gotten so much satisfaction out of the Christopher Nolan trilogy of Batman movies that anything that comes after is just fun candy for me. Those are my definitive Batman movies, along with the original Michael Keaton movie from '89. So yeah, any movie that comes after this that's a new iteration of Batman, it's like a new comic. Like, you have your favorites, but you're open to more. So if Matt Reeves has a great story and vision to tell for the Batman, I'm game for it. If it's going to be crazy and controversial and strange and eclectic, I'm down for that too. I'm sure it's going to be derivative of certain stories, or it might be a whole new story. But the fact that Penguin and Catwoman are being brought into the mix, supposedly, gives me a few ideas. I don't want to get into those ideas just yet until we have confirmation on it. But I'm very excited at the possibility of what could happen. I'm glad Catwoman's getting another iteration, and already people are talking about Kristen Stewart being thrown as Catwoman, and I wouldn't want it opposed to other actors. For some reason, the girl who's playing Jasmine in Aladdin, Naomi Scott, I think her name is. She's the first person that came to my head right now. But I wouldn't hate it if Kristen Stewart became Catwoman. Selena Kyle, sure. What else is there? A lot of things going around about Josh Gad as a Penguin, which I don't love. I like Josh Gad as an actor, but I don't think he would be right for that role. But I can be proven wrong. I just can't see it right now. But Robert Pattinson, as I see it right now, is a great choice, an inspired, wild choice to play Batman. And for some reason, I can't picture his iteration of Batman with short ears. I think it's going to be like the long Arkham Asylum version with like really long ears and a really decked out body. We'll have to see what happens. The movie doesn't come out for a few years, but I'm very, very excited. Next, I want to talk about some movies I saw, because I've been watching a lot of movies in the past few days. one including John Wick, that I would like to discuss heavier and longer with a possible guest, if I can get that guest, because I have a certain person in mind for it that is a John Wick aficionado. But I want to say first off the bat that I really like the third John Wick. I think it improves about the pacing issues of the second movie and also delivers even more on the action front. Keanu Reeves is still great. I love the supporting cast of this movie. People you wouldn't expect to be in this movie, returning characters that do a lot more than I expected to and increase the lore and the mythology of this place, this world of assassins. It isn't so much underground anymore. I feel like it's a lot more common than people originally thought back in the first movie. Some people weren't a fan of the adjudicator character, who was played by that actress from Billions, but I liked her in the role. I liked how the movie ended because it was surprising in a way I didn't see it coming. I had a certain ending in my mind for where it possibly was going with the end of the second movie and just the plot in general of this one, and it did something totally different. And I'm totally on board for what happened. Gotta cough away from the mic because allergies. And I just think the action in this movie was relentless when it was occurring on screen. The first 20 minutes is full of laughs and full of suspense and full of just amazement and awe and wonder of how they keep creatively killing people, how John Wick keeps creatively killing people, and how Keanu Reeves is just so incredible of a physical actor. And I remember in the beginning of the second movie, there was a Buster Keaton role on the side of a building. Perfect. Because he's the Buster Keaton of action movies. In a way, he is. And I think this movie, it's, if you're a fan of action movies, I think you could see this even without seeing the first two and have a good time, but I would get the first two first in to have more context, but you can go into this with your parents, if you're watching this with your parents or whoever, and they can also have a great time with this if they're into those kinds of movies. But I think it's also kind of crazy that these movies keep making more money in the box office the more they made. The first one had it kind of went with a whimper, made like, I don't know, it didn't make that much, but it was surprising after the fact, and then in, red box sales and DVD sales and all that jazz. Second movie made significantly made more, the second movie, in the opening weekend. This movie made the most. So it's only getting higher and higher, which is very impressive. And I can't wait for John Wick 4, if they make a John Wick 4. I also watched Under the Silverlake, which is directed by the guy who made It Follows. And there's been a lot of talk about this movie because it kind of got dumped by A24. But I think I really liked it. It stars Andrew Garfield, and it's like this weird postmodern noir mystery movie. And there's a lot going on. It's very weird. It goes in directions I didn't expect. It's also over 2 hours. But my dog is barking. Under the Silver Lake was the kind of movie that not everybody's going to like. I know right off the bat that certain people that I know would be turned off in the first 15, 20 minutes. But I was sucked into this world right away. I love the way that David Robert Mitchell, the director, portrayed Hollywood and the creepy worlds that could be hidden underneath, like the glamorous nature of Hollywood. There's a lot of gritty, dreary, disgusting things about it. And it was hilarious in a way, but also really cool in how it was portrayed. The directing is great in this movie, I think. I didn't have any pacing issues. The entire way, it reminded me of like Zodiac, where it's a very slow, deliberate pace, but you're always learning new information as it's coming. And Andrew Garfield's kind of a despicable character in this movie. Not the kind of guy you would like, but you want to see how this journey plays out. And it's a good lesson in the end for his character and just in general for the movie. And I kind of hope this movie finds a cult following along the way. But right now, I'm just glad it's a movie I watched this year in 2019 that I wouldn't have known about if it wasn't for my peers and friends and people who talked about it online. And then Red Letter Media, who talked about it recently too. And that was basically like the dynamite that blew up that made me realize I should watch this movie now. And I did, and I'm glad I did. I also watched Climax, which was a Gaspar Noé movie about, it reminded me of like Suspiria, with like the color palette that was featured throughout, but it was like a dance choreography movie, but it's also a horror, thriller, suspense movie. And it was strange. Another movie that I wouldn't recommend to everybody, or really only people who love film that much that they want to get different perspectives. Very strange movie. Incredible camera work that kind of became disorienting at the end, but it was purposely disorienting, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. It's also weirdly sexy. But that's because I think Sofia Boutella is a very sexy actress, and I think they utilize her in a way that she's a great actress, so she really has this raw emotion about her. But when they have to bring like this dancing choreography into play, it works. Like, you're kind of entranced by what's happening. You feel engrossed one moment, but then you feel grossed out the next. And I think it's a recommendation for film fans, and that's really it. I also saw A Long Shot, which was the Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron movie. It was like a rom-com, and I really enjoyed it. I don't really have much to say about it. I really liked Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron. Their chemistry together worked for me. It's what you'd expect for the most part. There are some interesting, clever jokes that relate to politics and a couple of things I didn't expect. Seth Rogen, I usually think he plays the same character in most movies, but I think he has a little bit of nuance here that I didn't expect. Kind of reminded me of him in 50-50, where he's doing a little bit of a different thing here, but he's mostly the same Seth Rogen that you know and love from all the movies, and it works in this movie. But he does something a little bit different here that I appreciated. Charlize Theron's always great. The supporting cast is also amazing. I really was impressed by O'Shea Jackson Jr. in this movie, Ice Cube's son. From this and Ingrid Goes West, I think he has a great career coming up, and he's also in Godzilla coming up next week. So I'm glad he's getting roles. He's a great actor. He's very charismatic, and he brought a lot with his dynamic with Seth Rogen. If you're a fan of comedies or rom-coms or romantic gestures in general, I think you might enjoy this one. But I wouldn't rush out to see it. You could rent this. It's a good date movie. I think that's really the gist of it. I hate doing that on camera. My nose is stuffy on camera. Now you know. There's also confirmation on the next Star Wars movies are going to be the Benioff and Weiss movies, the guys who made Game of Thrones. They're going from Game of Thrones and directly going into production for the Star Wars movies. And they're not directing them, but they are producing and outlining the story beats. And we'll get more information on that as the years come, I assume, because we have a 3-year gap. Plenty of time for news. But it's cool confirmation there. I can go into more. I'm going to start doing a Star Wars podcast of sorts, something I'm bringing back from my separate spin-off Star Wars channel that I tried to do last year or 2 years ago called Live Brief Star Wars, but I'm going to bring it here. It's called Wake Up and Smell the Tauntaun because Tauntauns smell great. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the possibilities. No matter how Game of Thrones ends tonight, well, technically, it's yesterday from when this comes out because these are Mondays. I'm not going to get into the hellhole that is Game of Thrones right now. But no matter how those end, you can't deny the journey getting to the end has been somewhat incredible. And I'm excited for the storytelling possibilities that they're going to bring to Star Wars. Whether they fail or succeed, I feel like you can't say that anymore with Star Wars because the prequels, in their own right, failed. And now they're pretty much not revered, but they're looked back on in a positive light, more so than they did back 20 years ago. And I'm going to talk more about that on the podcast with Phantom Menace and my memories of it. But it'll be interesting to see in the wake of this toxic fan culture that we're in right now, what we're going to get for these spin-off movies after we get like The Mandalorian and the Cassian Andor show and all that. And I think that's it for today. A little bit of a shorter episode. But I really just want to talk about Robert Pattinson as Batman, and that was really the gist of it. There was some other cool news. There was a Child's Play trailer that came out, and it showed the animatronic of the new version of Chucky, and he looks terrible. I hate it. It looks like somebody mentioned it looks like Team America World Police with the puppetry there, and I love animatronics, but this is an example of bad animatronics, and I always prefer animatronics if possible over CGI, but in this case, they're dropping the ball with it, in my opinion. It looks really hilariously goofy and stupid. Whereas the old one back in the late 80s, early 90s, those Child's Play movies, that Chucky, he looked cool, but he looked terrifying too. This one just looks like I would laugh at it if I saw it in real life. I think I'm a pretty terrified person when it comes to like the dark and stuff, but I think I would laugh and be like, "You're gonna kill me with that? You're cute. Let me just kick you in the face." But yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed this unentitled show that still doesn't have a name, please ring that bell, that's important, and also leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about today's show and what topics you want me to cover in the future. I do want to talk about Cobra Kai. That's going to come soon because I feel like not enough people are watching and talking about Cobra Kai. And hopefully there's some cool topics to come in the week ahead. I'm John Maffio. Look forward to my Star Wars podcast that I'm starting up again, like I mentioned before, tomorrow, which will be every Tuesday. And that's it. See you guys on the next show. Hopefully I'll have a title soon and an intro and the whole 9 yards. That would be nice. I'm working on it. Bye-bye.